Okay, we're on to lesson 28 of Beginning Rock Guitar Book 3. And this is a blues phrasing exercise. We're basing it around the pentatonic scale that you've already learned by now. It's 5th fret A minor pentatonic scale. Okay? And based around the chords that go in the 12 bar blues of A. Now we're barring them now, and you can look at there's 2 pages in the book. The second, the page on the right is the example solo, but at the bottom of that page I've got fretboard charts for A7, D7, and E7. They're all at the 5th fret. A7 now, I've just got the bar and second and third fingers, but sometimes I'll add the pinky on the 8th fret of the second string, and it's kind of a brighter, I kind of like that. It's the same chord, it's a 7th chord, with or without that pinky. Without the pinky, it's a simpler chord to finger, but the pinky 7th, and that's the 7th that you're playing there, makes it a brighter sound, I think. So you have those 3 chords, and you have the pentatonic scale. So we're trying to find out where the roots of these 3 chords are within the scale. And if you think of the A7, there are 3 A's in the pentatonic scale. It's 5th fret of the 6th string, 7th fret of the 4th string, and 5th fret of the 1st string. So here's the idea, is that we're going to strum the chord, and then we're going to make up a short phrase that begins and ends on that chord root. So if I do A7, I can start on this middle A here on the 7th fret, and I began on that A and I ended my phrase on A. Now think of a phrase kind of like a sentence. It's like a musical idea, and it has a beginning, middle, and an end, you know, like most compositions. But you can add rhythm in there, and you know, this is basically to learn where the roots are. So our hard fast rule right now is to begin and end on that chord root of the chord you just strummed. So now strumming the chord in between the phrases kind of breaks up the phrases so that you're not constantly rambling. One of the things I've noticed with beginners with the A minor pentatonic is when they improvise, if they can get around the scale pretty good, they'll just start rambling. And maybe not even in the right rhythm, but it's kind of like somebody who talks and never takes a breath, and they just keep talking and talking and talking, you know, or somebody who writes a sentence that covers half of the page in one sentence. They never put a punctuation of a period or an exclamation mark. It's just all words jumbled together. And you don't want to play like that. You want to make statements with your phrases. And a phrase can be very short, you know, like I can go like this A, if I strum the chord. I began on the A, I played one other note, and I ended on the A. And that's a phrase. Or it can be a little longer. I can go and there I started on this A and I ended on that A. Okay? So now we go to the D chord. It's a D7. You've got a choice of two Ds in this pattern. And it's fifth fret of the fifth string, played with the first finger, and then seventh fret of the third string, played with the third finger. So if I strum a D, usually I'm going to pick the higher pitched one, like, see? And then I do another D7, I might go slightly different phrase. But you can hear it's kind of like the way you talk. You do an idea, a sentence, and then you take a breath. And that's what phrases are. And we're forcing that because we're strumming the chord in between each phrase. And then E7, I can do this E. I'm doing a little vibrato, or I can do this E. See? So you have a choice of two E's, two D's, and three A's. And so you might just stay with one chord for a little bit, like D7. I think that's one of the harder ones to do a lot of variety in the phrases because just the way the D is in the scale, sometimes it sounds a little weird, but I'm hammering. But you could just try different phrases with one chord just to get acclimated. And you want to try to put some rhythms in it, like you have triplets, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you could 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. And that's an A phrase, starting on A. I changed it a little bit, but those are all triplets. Or you can do shuffle, like 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2. So I did a combination of shuffle and triplets. And most blues, typical blues, is in a triplet count. So you do want to be aware of rhythms. And you're improvising, so you don't want to overthink it. It's kind of like connecting the dots. And generally you want to go from one note to the next higher note or to the next lower note. You don't want to skip around a lot because it could sound really weird if, that's not a phrase. That's, random notes. So some people might like that, but generally it's not going to be very musical if you skip around a lot. Okay, and you got to be careful with the scale when you improvise. Going from the bass to from the sixth string to the first string, you want to do the lower numbered finger first, like 1 4 1 3 1 3 1 3. You don't want to go 4 1 3 1 3 1. That's not scale motion. Though the hand might not really sense that there's much difference between those two kinds of motions. But this is not scale motion. I'm doing a skip every other note. But this is scale motion. Okay? So just use your own common sense and explore the scale and get to know it. There's a lot you can do with this scale. It's a lot of people get, they belittle it because, it's the first scale you learn and, you get beyond that after a while. But that's, you don't want to feel that way. You want to, there's a lot of guitar players, great guitar players, who their whole career was this scale. Maybe not just this pattern. I mean, you can play this scale all over the fretboard, but we're not going to get into that right now. We're just doing the simple, easiest pattern. And so anyway, I'm going to go through the 12 bar blues, and I'm going to strum the chord, and then I'm going to improvise a phrase. And some of it might be kind of dumb, I mean, I'm not going to worry about the quality of every phrase. Generally, though, you want to use scale-like motion. That means go to the next higher, the next lower note. And you don't want to skip around a lot. And you want to use shuffle, triplet rhythms. And all of that's explained on the page. But to follow the 12 bar blues, the easiest thing would be to look at the next page where it says example solo. And don't play those solo notes, just strum the chords, because the chords are mapped out: A7, D7, A7, A7. It's the typical 12 bar blues that we've learned since book 1. Okay? So I'm going to strum the chord A7, make up a phrase. And actually, I did the same phrase that's written there, but I didn't intend to do that. And then D7, strum the chord. See? Don't ramble too much. Make them short phrases, generally short statements. Now I want to do this A down to this A. And you can repeat notes. That's usually good, because you're doing a rhythmic thing with one note, and that's cool. And then, so anyway, I'm going to start over again. 12 bar blues. I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to play. So that I was just making up phrases. Now in the example solo, and I'm just going to go ahead and play that. I thought I'd do it as 2 separate videos, but this is an example, and you can always scroll to this part of the video. And this is an example written out in tablature of a improvised solo, supposedly improvised, and with the chord strums in between. So it shows you strumming the chord and then playing a phrase. And then D7. A7. E7, D7, A7, A7. Okay? So some of it might seem a little trite or corny. And at this point, when you improvise, I would not um, be too self judgmental. In fact, don't overthink it. Just try to follow a scale wise motion. That means you're going from the note you start on to the next higher or the next lower note. You're not skipping notes. And generally, it's going to be more musical when you do it that way. Skips are really nice and they can be really good. You know, I can like. Skip around, but you almost have, you kind of have to know what you know the scale a little better and know what you're doing uh, to do a lot of skips. Because, like I was saying before, like you could end up doing, and it just sounds like a mess. So it's just going to sound better to connect the dots, as we say. But do a lot of this. And not only are you breaking up the phrases, you're learning what a phrase is. It's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it's a statement. It can be really simple. Like, that's a phrase. Or it can be more elaborate. You know, so, and I'm just making this up. So I'm not, it's just having fun with it. But you're also learning where these roots are, these chords. Like where all the A's are, where all the D's are, and you can hear, when you strum a D chord and you're hitting the root of that chord, you can hear it. But it's not really a hard, fast rule like B.B. King didn't always start and end on the root of the chord he was playing. Often B.B. King actually would just stay on the root of the key, like if he was playing an A chord, and then he'd play the D chord, he'd still stay on that A, which A is in the D chord, and then even on the E chord, there is no A in an E chord. In fact, it kind of clashes with the G sharp, and he'd probably, still play that A. He loved the root of the key, and that was his main note. He was, kind of, you could almost say he was a one-note guy, but he was much more than that, but he often did like, centering around that root, that's the same as this 5th fret A, except I'm going up on the 2nd string, See? So the more you do it, the more you'll hear the pentatonic and it'll make sense. I remember when I was 15, I was just learning the scales, and I remember a friend of mine said, that's the first solo you've ever played that sounded like it made sense. And that made me feel really good. When that happened, it was just a friend of mine, and he was making an observation, and he was kind of happy that I was starting to make sense out of phrases, and we were all trying to make sense. And at that time, I was doing a lot of major pentatonics, and that's a different animal. But so have fun with this. It's really a good exercise, I think, to go beyond just kind of blindly playing notes of the pentatonic scales without knowing any of the notes that you're playing. when you think of pentatonic, it's 5 notes. You were doing 3 chords in the blues, and so you're learning these 3 notes, and you're learning 3 of the 5 notes. So the only other notes that are not in the chord roots are C and G. So the whole scale is A, C, D, E, G. And then you have an A again. A, C, D, E, G, A, C. So I'm going to do that again, and I want you to learn these notes and just say them as you play them, just as an exercise. A, C, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G, A, C, A, G, E, D, C, A, G, E, D, C, A. You have to think a little harder when you're going backwards, but it's just 5 notes, and like the roots that we're playing around, like, and then D, and then E. That's 3 of the 5 notes, so we only have 2 other notes that make the whole scale. And there's a lot of interesting things about scales, the way they overlap, and we'll get into all that. That's more of a theory type thing. Enjoy this and subscribe. Please like if you like this lesson. If it helped you at all, please leave a comment. I always like to hear from you. And look for John Hedger Guitar Studio, not only on YouTube, but also on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much.